So now, for this entire session, which is named as Unlock Growth Experiments, today over the next three events, we are going to talk about acquisition, retention, and conversions specifically. For today, we are just going to stick to acquisition. Now, I guess I've been already talking a lot about Ruby, and Ruby is already on the screen. But just to give a little bit of introduction about her, so Ruby is currently working as a AVP of Marketing and Growth at Spinny. Previously, she was working as a DGM Digital Marketing and Growth at Midlife. She has over 15 years of experience working with companies like Myntra or Ogilvy, Simply Learn, and few others. Uh, Her expertise is in 360-degree digital campaigns, paid search marketing, lead generation, and the list goes on and on. Ruby, it's a real pleasure for all of us to have you here. I guess it's your second time you are on the show with Growth Folks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the second time.
perfect. It's a pleasure to have you. You can take it away from here. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Ayush and Satish. I will make sure that the next 90 minutes are something which where we learn, all of us learn something, because these kind of sessions, when we prepare, like when I was preparing, I had the time to actually look back and understand what happened and what did happen, right? So first of all, thank you for so much everybody to actually come here and giving the 90 minutes of like of your time here, which is essentially very important for everybody of us, right? So will not take much time, and will directly jump into the overall what I want to share, right? So I hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes.
Okay, sure. So as Ayush mentioned, the first session in the series is acquisitions, right? So everybody has many doubts about acquisitions. So there are few conceptions in terms of what is acquisition all about. Then comes the CAC with it, right? So there are many misconceptions and understanding gaps. I have seen it multiple times when I have taken multiple interviews with multiple folks, and within the team also, aligning acquisition as a definition is very important, right? So we'll be talking about smaller things which might take a bigger impact in overall decision making, in overall understanding, and creating the overall planning, and hence tracking it back to your plan, right? So this is the introduction which Ayush has already given, but I will talk about little bit different, which is not there. So I am a BE graduate and in computer science, and after that, I started working into digital marketing, and it's been 15 years, and since then, I I actually love this field so much because it is very uh, like touching in terms of you understand a lot from consumer experience. You understand a lot from how a psychology of a customer or a person works, right? And you get a chance to work with multiple stakeholders in the company and outside the company. So that's about the overall how the growth this ecosystem attracted me, and hence I have grown my overall career in this space only, right? Now coming to how an acquisition is defined, right? So it depends upon very much about in which business you are in right now. Okay, so in certain businesses they define acquisition when the first sign up happens, right? So it totally depends how your management and you want to define an acquisition definition as such for your organization, right? So for example, certain companies take it as a first order placed. So acquisition is something, it's the first user you have acquired for your organization, right? So acquisition, when you acquire a user, it can be a placed order, it can be a delivered order as well, right? So sometimes debate like you have a customer has only placed the order, they have not received the order, hence they have not actually onboarded on the platform yet. But on the contrary, if we say they have experienced the platform, they have cancelled the order, that can be a different point altogether. They might not like the product altogether, but they have experienced the product. So there are debates which happens in all the organization, what should be the right definition for acquisition. But I think it depends upon the management and how you want to, and the leadership team, how they want to track back it. But whatever metrics we want, you guys want to track, or your organization want to track, then it has to be same for entire year at least. Then we can, a company can always redefine the metrics what they are targeting, right? And hence comes the CAC with it. So in CAC also, there are places where people take all the spends which happens from the marketing side, and in few organizations they take spends which has been driven only for growth, which is for acquiring a new user, and retention cost they do not take, right? So there are multiple uh, ways to define CAC and acquisition, but that is the major definition around it. So the cost which has been spent for acquiring a new customer on the platform. Okay. Uh, so this is the basic framework for acquisition, which is like how do you go about planning it. So there are multiple elements when you go about planning the acquisition or a growth plan for an organization, right, or for a company. So there are channels which are involved, there is targeting which is involved. Along with targeting, there are creators which will come in picture, and creatives in the sense you will have different concept in terms of alluring the users to try out or test out the services, uh, or the business or retail, whatever you have, to actually come on board, right? And the biggest thing is the experiments. So any business cannot, or anything cannot be uh, we cannot grow without experiments, right? So if somebody says that no, this is the hard and fast rule, and this is something which will work for all, that's not correct. So the same thing might have worked for X advertiser, that might not work for the Y advertiser, and it happens. So this is not something which is a hard and fast rule. There is no one by one guideline which will work for everybody. So everybody has to set their own experiments and understand from them, learn from their experiments, and go ahead, right? So this is the common framework which we'll be talking about. Going ahead. So first of all, when you start thinking about, like, let's say this is you are into a new business altogether, and now you want to start thinking and creating a plan for acquisitions, right? So planning is very important, because it is something which set you and define what you want to do in the next couple of months or in the next year, right? So defining the overall business goals and the PNL, and understand the PNL. So it is very important. I will say, uh, because sometimes what happens, a marketing team or a growth team who is working on the acquisition, they have a half baked knowledge, and basis that half baked knowledge, they come up with an idea or with a solution which might not be good in the bottom funnel. And at the end, when they come up, they execute the idea in after a quarter, they get to know that it hit badly in the PNL, in the bottom line, right? So for example, there are offers which every most of the organization have for the first user growth, right? So they give some kind of a discount, or they give free delivery for the first user, just to let a user experience the services, right? So if this discounting or whatever free delivery we are giving, if that is not baked into the PNL structure, this will hit back badly in later, right? So it's better to make sure that everybody understand what is the offer, and hence understanding the PNL structure for your own organization for to grow is very important. And this gives actually a very good understanding in what are the levers to actually uh, play around when you plan any kind of experiment, or you plan any kind of campaign in future. right? So aligning business growth and with appropriate metrics, because this will help you aligning these goals and appropriate metrics along with everybody, right? Then the essential part is like, don't plan anything which is only for 1 month or 2 months. Plan for an entire year at least, or a 6 months, because what happens when you see a bigger picture, your chances of understanding the whole uh, burn and whole revenue is different, right? So you can plan a separate kind of channels targeting creative on the festival season versus on a normal days, right? So if you have a holistic plan, you can then like drop it down to quarter and month, but have a holistic picture of your overall acquisition plan, right? Then sorry. So talking about how building, so channels is something which happens on daily basis. This is the bread and butter for any growth team or the marketing team, because they have to keep building the marketing channels, and it is something which where the experiments play a very important role. So you have to experiment, learn. If that channel is not working, you have to drop. So that planning also can happen at least for 1 quarter. So what all we will do, and we plan these all things so that we plan the experimental budget also, right? So now coming to the another important part of planning is the attribution model. uh, so attribution model is where you define how much weightage you want to give to one channel versus another channel, right? So it is like whether you want the last click attribution. So a person who from a channel where the last click happened, you want to give the whole incentive of getting that acquisition to that channel, or you want to give that incentive to all the small uh, various other channels which has helped this last click channel to come on the on board, right? So that depends. So there are multiple attribution tools and models which an organization can think over and put back their own data which is there. Maybe they already have some kind of data and they want to understand what is the right attribution tool for them or right attribution model for them. They can input that data into these tools and understand what happens. So whether a data driven attribution model is good, or a last click attribution is good for their channel, uh, uh, for their business, or what kind of like overall channel is good for them, right? So that can be done. And the another trick to it, like you can actually talk to any of your similar kind of businesses model who are working in the space and understand from them what kind of attribution model they are working upon, right? So you can have that kind of understanding and learn what should be the right thing for you, right? So these are the basic things which needs to be in line while you are planning for acquisition, right? So next we will talk about a bit more on how to choose a channel. So channel choosing a channel is depending upon multiple things which we already talked about, and there are additional things which comes into the picture when you do that, right? So sometimes I keep hearing that we have only one channel as of now, we have two channels, how to grow and all, right? So doesn't matter whether you have one channel or you have 10 channels, right? It depends upon how, what kind of budget you have and what kind of targets you have from business to achieve, right? So for the when you have done the planning, you understand that this is my target, this is my CAC number, and this is my ROI to bring upon, right? So now, depending, and you understand the budget also after your plan. So once that is done, you then come back to which channel will be correct for me, right? And every channel has a play at the end to actually play so that you meet your acquisition goals for every month, or right? Because uh, in the start, I worked mostly in the startup system, and it's like a monthly acquisitions which we count, right? And the CAC is also monthly or quarterly, right? So That's how you define your budget and the channel, how much budget you have. So what should be the right channel for me to target for, right? And then you start your experiments too, right? And then you look into your competition also, like where all my competition is, what all they are doing, because that's at least give you an idea in understanding where all my users are going, right? The fourth important part is user psychology, because you tr- so when you define a business, you define a set of cohorts and a different set of cohorts. So and you are trying to uh, give solutioning for different use cases, right? So why psychology is important, because you might be solving for something which is for example, uh, in space of online education, where Simply Learn was one of my last company. So where what happened? So if in Simply Learn, if a user is looking to get a training done for any online course or a LBC or a virtual classroom, what they will do, they will have this thing in mind that what whoever is the professor, I want to actually read about it and want to understand about that professor a little more before I just enroll myself for the course, right? So it's a good idea to have your presence on the blogs and articles whatever those professors have written, right? Because so then the content become a bigger role there, right? So your content marketing so that you are present on kind of blogs where which was written by those professor. If you are available, if you are present there, then your presence is felt and you will get the acquisition which you are looking for, right? So what you have planned, so a person might have started his journey from Google, they might have learned from Simply Learn, or they have seen the bigger banner somewhere. They then come to the platform again, go back and research about it, and then finally enroll themselves, right? So another example of user psychology is from Mintra, right? So apart from Google, Facebook, Instagram, and other places where fashion enthusiast or a person who wants to buy retail fashion, they will be available. There are places like deal sites, right? Because almost many people are deal seekers. They're looking for discounts on day-to-day basis, right? So if you have that in your channel mix, these kind of places in your channel mix, that plays a very important role, right? So defining a mix of channel is important, and it also important in which phase you are in your business. So if it's a starting phase, you might choose to have only 2 or 3 channels and you play around with them, understand what is the user doing from each and every channel, read the funnel of each and every channel separately, and understand how they are interacting when they are coming on your platform, and then define the next channel, or you experiment with couple of channels simultaneously, right? uh, then the next important part is bandwidth and the skill sets you have, right? That is also very important. So uh, for example, today if I want to start any kind of campaigns, let's say content play, right? I don't have any team members in my team to actually start any content marketing from tomorrow, right? And we need to think over it for a couple of weeks and we start working on it. So till then, it's not like I will stop on the growth piece or anything which is required for the organization. So I will try to get this team built in. Till the time, I'll try to like work upon the existing channels we have and build over the time, right? So that's the reason, if you do the holistic picture in the starting, then you don't have to do all this in the middle, right? But in the uncertain times like where we are today, which is all of us that a lockdown happens and you cannot actually plan all this ahead. So there you have to play a little smartly and uh, tweak a bit and get the work done from somewhere else. But this is something which is not, I pray it should not happen again over and over again. But in on those unwanted times, we can actually take that approach as well, right? Sometimes what I've seen that what happens, on certain channels, which is mostly your programmatic or your display, right? So if you start these kind of channels in a high traffic days where you are planning something bigger, maybe a TV ad, or you are planning a sale on your platform, and you're already spending a lot of amount outside, then if you put these kind of channels during these days, when the traffic is larger on the website or app downloads are higher, then the channels learn very fastly. So when you come back from those high traffic days, you start seeing the better the results coming in. Otherwise, programmatic and these kind of channels take some time to give you the desired result for your growth, right? So moving, so channel is something which is very important, choosing the channel, and then comes the targeting on the channel, right? So choosing the channel is something that you have decided that you would like to do some bit of content, you want to do some bit of Google, some bit of Facebook affiliates, etc. Now comes the right targeting about it. Targeting is more about segmenting the users, cohorting the user in the way so that you show them the right set of creatives or right set of content or right set of communication to the end user, right? So right targeting is depending upon engagement and the conversion metrics which we are uh, which we want to track back for that channel, right? Mostly in the starting, it starts from a hypothetical situations where we think, यार यहाँ पे this channel पे तो like if you target this kind of targeting, you will get the right set of users because we understand from business that this is my right set of audience, right? So uh, uh, going say for example in Spinny right now, so I know for my supply campaigns, supply is more about when I want to acquire a user for a sell to sell a car to us, right? So I understand a cohort who has the car, right? जिसके पास गाड़ी होगी, they will only sell the car, right? So this is understood. Like I understand the right targeting is somebody who owns the car. Now then if there are various channel will not tell us whether the person owns a car or not, right? But then you segment it in the sense, right? uh, the age group should be like this, and these are my targeting my geos where I can service. And then you decide it on the senses, like for example, this guy should have like if he owns a car, he might be earning this much. Or you define the persona of that person in your mind and you decide that this will be the right targeting, right? Like for example, we understand not many women actually take a lot of decision while selling a car, right, or buying a car. So that defines that this segment is altogether a male dominating segment, right? So if you even if a female can be the part of taking the decision, but she will not be the final person who will be owning the decision, right? So that becomes the targeting. At least this much I understand. Now the next level of understanding will happen when you start the things, right? The second part to it, like how to blend your targeting with the right set of creative. Because when you are targeting, you're targeting a cohort, right? Otherwise it can be in an open campaign which is running for everybody. But when you target a cohort. And when you do that, you understand whom you are targeting. So what should be the right messaging for them, right? And it comes with lots of iterations and lots of data churning when you start experimenting, etc., right? So for example, in Myntra mostly what happened, and this is what happened actually. So in the shoe category, we have seen Nike works awesomely well when it comes to acquisition. So if you are working on a shoe as a category, you have to show a Nike ad. So that's a puller for a user, because that is an aspirational brand for everybody to own. So they come for Nike, they will end up buying anything, but that is the puller that increases your CTRs, and conversion rate happens on the platform when they compare multiple products with Nike. If they want to buy Nike, they will buy, but otherwise also because there are other brands to show off, and we started thinking in terms of how to do the cross promotion on the app and bring back a user again and all those things, which ended up giving us better results, right? So understanding this kind of match is very important. If we kind of like nail it out, then the work is done, right? So this is very important. Then A/B testing is something which will never go away from growth or acquisitions or any kind of marketing which we do, right? Uh, I'll take a bit about here on acquisition funnel. So when I was talking on channels, so I slightly touched upon which all like there can be, or there will be a set of channels which will be helping in each of the funnel, in every in each part of the funnel of the purchase cycle, right? So your impressions and reach kind of a thing will help you to get the bigger upper funnel for acquisition. You are just announcing that this is something you have, then the click happens, right? Then and then the ad is being shown and the click happens. Then comes your visitors and install happens. They do multiple sessions, and after they are interested on the platform, they get they get going for the first transaction on the platform, right? But what mostly we do not actually measure is a separate funnel for acquisition and a separate funnel for retention or the old users. Because what happens when a user is coming on your platform for the first time, they don't know you and you don't know them, right? So it's very unlikely that you have the same kind of structure and same type of funnel and are tracking it and saying everything is fine, right? Because repeat users will be higher and new users will be lesser, and that overall data will be blended and you won't be understand anything, and it looks all right? But when you start seeing the funnel in a separate manner altogether, you get to know certain things which is not required for a new user, or which is not required for a new user. However, you have to add few things there. I will talk a bit about it in my case study, which I will be covering later. But it's very important to see each and every leg of the funnel for acquisition separately, and everywhere there is a lot of scope of optimization, learning and experimenting, and then again doing the same thing, right? A/B testing I've spoken about a lot, and uh, to me, uh, like it was very difficult when I should say 5 years back or 6 years back, it was very difficult to do A/B testings across all the layers, which is your channels, your targeting, and your platform itself, like your app or website. But these days, uh, channels themselves have created so much on their own platform to do these A/B testing, and there are so many tools available to do the same on your own product. So this has become so easy to do right now. So I'll actually request everybody to start thinking about doing lots of experiment and setting it up. But before doing that, there are few guidelines which I have learned on my own, and it's important to make sure that you do not do all these mistakes again, right? So first of all, uh, in in the haste of setting up a A/B testing, sometimes what happens, we over optimize the test in itself. So the test is so much confined that you won't get any result. So there has to be a substantial data where you say that it's statistically correct, and hence you can take that kind of route or that kind of result approved, and you can go ahead to make the to tweak the things which whatever you have decided, right? But if you over optimize it, you will not get any kind of learning from there, and you might just waste the time, right? The second one is tracking the whole e-commerce KPIs. So this is more from what we have seen. So there were two tests which were set up. One is on the discount. So this is mostly a discounting A/B testing, where here the percentage discount was being promoted. Like for example, you get 20% of discount, and here we have say that you get flat 200 rupees discount, right? So these were the two tests which started. So in the on the tool, what we were seeing, that this variation A is better because the conversion rate was much better here, right, in the variation A, but in variation 1. But when we saw the bottom line and we saw the uplift in terms of revenue, the variation 2 is much better, right? So if we have taken the decision basis on the conversion rate only, we would have been in the wrong direction, and we would have rolled out this as an overall thing. But the variation 2 was actual winner, which we got to know only when we saw the overall funnel, right? So taking the wrong decision after seeing the only the data which is available on the testing tool is also not correct. So you have to understand your own business and look at the bottom funnel as well, right? So third is something which I have seen happening. So what happens, you come up with a hypothetical situation that like this is something which will happen, right? So you have that like you have some biases in your mind ki ye to aise hi hoga, this will work like this only, if you even if you test, the results will be like this only. But what happens, and if you run the test and the test results are opposite what you were thinking, and but what happens, you are biased to your thoughts that this has to be in this way only. So it's not correct to disregard the test results. You can to like full understand your biases overall correctly, you can retest again, so you can validate it again. But it is not a good practice to disregard the test results, because that is something what you set it up at the starting, right? The other thing is like, do not make mistakes of having multiple dynamic parameters in a test. So there should not be multiple changes, like you have changed the color of the text and you have changed the CTA from right to left or anything on the when you are doing testing on your creatives. Don't do multiple changes at one time. Like I have my logo on the top, now I have my logo at the bottom. Buy now button or whatever button will be on center, now I will have it here. So if you start testing multiple things, you'll not get the right result, because it will be biased with so many other things which are playing at the same time, right? uh, this is very important that you define success rate metrics in the beginning before starting, and you write it down somewhere, right? Because after the experiment is finished, then there are many times debate happens, nahi, we wanted to actually do this, but this is not right, right? So if you define the metrics and you write it somewhere, then coming back and taking a look at it is easier, right? The last part is more on tracking it on closely on daily basis, so that if you see something is missed while setting up on the test, you can tweak it initially, right? And the input initially, so that you do not waste another 15 days and then you go back, array, this was left, right? Then that 15 days is the sheer waste of bandwidth as well as the effort which gone in creating the test, right? So we'll talk about a bit on MedLife case study. So this is something which I was the part of, and where with the team we have done multiple things to actually uh, shift the user acquisition growth from web to app, right? And why it was required is basically because when we looked at the data, so MedLife app was on not on React Native initially. We have changed the app to React Native, and after studying the data for 5-6 months, we kind of understood that app cohorts are much better, right? And their repeat rates, the lifetime value of that cohort, which was there in the older app also, was much better, right? So, and app anyways give a lot more targeting option, and you can do lots of personalization, user behavior can be in terms of understanding. So all these things an app can do, which a web is little difficult to get on web, sorry. So hence it was making lots of sense to actually park in more budgets and get acquisition on app, so that the kind of like later funnel whatever we see, it's more healthier for the overall organization, right? This is what we did. So overall we we setting up experiments with new affiliates. So we have onboarded many affiliates at that point of a time. Newer event optimization. So they were, so in starting we were optimizing only on the final conversion. So we have started putting in no new events which is specifically for acquisitions only, which has your revenue for acquisition, your CAC for acquisition, your overall number of acquisition, city, etc. So whole metrics in terms of events got changed to track only acquisition on app, and this fed back into our attribution tool, and then it went back to the Google and Facebook as well, right? Uh, Also, what we did, we set up the reporting structures in a two format, which is like track install to acquisition percentage along with CPI, and also the lower funnel of it, like how many orders got uh, delivered, what was, so in MedLife it is on the medicine delivery app, right? So it is important to see how many orders are coming on medicines and how many orders are coming from health products, right? Which is your generics, right? So what is the percentage of those users, because that is also important for the for the healthier funnel or the healthier cohort to happen, right? So started tracking everything here. Also, what we analyzed after a few weeks or so, that uh, that the growth on app which we are seeing were from tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So we focused a lot on city based campaigns and moved high the budgets there, and the CAC on these cities were also very good. So it was much better than your uh, metro cities. So that was another thing which we did. The third one is on creatives. So uh, understanding the adoption, what is happening on the app, what kind of cohort is coming, right? And then understanding the health, what kind of healthcare products they might be needing, right? So for example, the major issue which we saw was diabetes, right? So we started flashing lots of ad on healthcare products for diabetes, right? And because you cannot understand whether a person is ill or at that point of a time, right? But health products are something which anybody can take anytime, and diabetes is a bigger health issue in India, right? So that has given like targeted reach, targeting, like your targeting was like for diabetes audience, and you are showing them the solution for it, right? So overall that helped a lot. Then very important, like we improved onboarding flows for new users. So this is what I was talking about. So landing pages, we created a new landing pages for new users, right? So those were personalized, and those had relevant offer and had a lots of trust building communication, because when it comes to medicine or healthcare products, trusting a brand is very important. And when you expecting a new user on your website, rather than showing that so much of offer and we will do this and this product, we can do 10 more things, showing that more relevant and trust building testimonials, or how many customers you have already serviced, etc., like makes lots of sense for them, right? So the onboarding journey got revived. uh, so also we saw that people who landed on the onboarding journey had a better acquisition percentage. So people were able to relate on this. So onboarding is very important when you're thinking of creating the funnels for either app or web. So understand the user is coming to your website or app for the first time. So you can think over like that and can create the journeys like this. The third one is this is what I was talking about, that it's very difficult to understand who is unwell, right? But if you can, what we could push is more on healthcare products. So you get the acquisition on the healthcare product, they become your customer. So whenever they are unwell or anything, they will come back to you. So eventually they will uh, convert to a medicine order. So they can start from a healthcare product and they convert to a medicine order also whenever they require, right? So this is what we did, and this give us the phenomenal result in terms of converting the users from web acquisition to the app acquisition. And it was like 70% of our marketing budgets in 6-7 months we moved to app and not web, right? So this is what we did, and this is what we have for the day.